All right, this is Shon Gerber again with Reduce Cyber Risk, and we're now moving into the next section around professional ethics, and this is part of the CISSP training that you get through Reduce Cyber Risk. All right, so professional ethics, this is section 1.5. We're going to go over the CISSP Code of Professional Ethics along with Organizational Code of Ethics. This section is going to be pretty quick, but it's very important as it relates to how you operate as a security professional. So the objective, CISSP Code of Professional Ethics, they have a preamble, and their preamble is that safety and welfare of society and the common good duty of your principles and to each other requirements that we may adhere, that have been seen to adhere to the highest ethical standards of behavior. Their strict adherence to this code is a condition of certification. Basically, what it comes down to is this. In a previous life, when I worked as a government hacker, the thing we used to always tell ourselves is use your powers for good, not evil. Well, when you're a security professional, you basically are in a situation where you must use your powers for good and not for evil. You know a lot of things about what can do, basically vulnerabilities within a network. You know how to potentially take advantage of these vulnerabilities. You know how to deal with the situations that come around that. You influence people. You could do a lot of damage as a security professional within an organization, especially as you're dealing with maybe if you're in a small or medium-sized business and they're relying on you to give them the expert advice that you are. So it's imperative that you have some level of ethics as it relates to your profession. Now, the CISSP, they wanted to get into this. They wanted to define what is this, because in some cases, some people may not understand that completely. So the Code of Ethics canons, you protect society, the common good, necessary public trust and confidence, and the infrastructure. So again, it comes back to is as a security professional, you will know many of these things that are going on. You also could provide a lot of good for people. In the situations where I've worked with a nonprofit to help secure them, there's a lot of situations around security that you could provide valuable information and valuable guidance to individuals. And so therefore, that's the reason behind these Code of Ethics. Now, some of the canons. Also, you need to act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. Provide diligent and competent service to principals and advance and protect the profession. Okay? They basically want you to stand up, be the person you need to be. Man or woman, whether it is that you will be doing with the right thing as it relates to security and protecting your employer or your business, whoever you work for, and do the right thing. It's just really bottom line what it comes down to. RFC 1087 gets about ethics and the internet. It's basically the goal is do not seek gain to unauthorized access. Don't use your powers for good. If you see that you can get unauthorized access, what should you do? We talk about that with the bug bounties and so forth that you'll see with various companies. It's reasonable and disclosure. And how do you disclose a bug without telling the world so that it leaves open a vulnerability? There's ways of doing that. Again, that's ethics and how that works. Do not disrupt the internet for the intended use that is planned for, right? So now you don't do denial of service attacks and things we've talked about on some of my podcasts around booters, where they'll turn around and utilize Internet of Things tools and they will then launch attacks against people. You don't do that. Don't use your powers for good, not evil. Do not waste resources through actions, okay? So bottom line on that is that you do the right thing there and you're not expending resources without needing to. Do not destroy the integrity of computers' information. Don't go and destroy stuff that's been on these systems. One, to try to hide what you're doing and do the right thing. Make sure that you protect the information. This is especially valuable as you're getting into legal situations where you may have to deal with chain of custody and data protection around potential forensics evidence. Do not compromise the privacy of its users. Again, you potentially could have access to a lot of information. Now, as a security professional, I recommend that you don't have access. I try not to have as much. I have as little access as I possibly can, because in reality, I knew I'd be a possibly target. So I don't want access. I do not want that at all. There's other people that are more, they need that responsibility and they need those decision rights. I don't. So therefore, don't compromise the privacy of your users. Now, this is the Organizational Code of Ethics, COE. Now, you need to review and understand your organization's ethical approach. So, I'm just going to be honest. Some organizations may not have much of an ethical approach. Now, does that mean that you can not be ethical? Well, I guess if you work for the mob, or organized crime in some form, shape, or another, your ethics may be a bit challenged. So therefore, you need to just kind of determine if that's something that's going to fit you or not. Ideally, though, if you're working for somebody that's criminal mastermind that's going to take over global domination, then you probably don't care much about ethics, and you just really, this section doesn't really matter to you. But if you're like the rest of us who are just trying to make a living and do the right thing, you need to understand what is your organization's thought process around ethics. You need to integrate cybersecurity into your organization's ethical documents. So like you have your acceptable use policies and so forth. I mean, that comes down to ethical aspects, right? You're trusting people to do the right thing. You need to integrate cybersecurity into these documents and these processes as well. And that's how you use, again, you talk to your people that are have access to high levels of information. Maybe they have high credentials, they're admins and so forth. You need to integrate some level of ethics into this discussion so that they know, one, to use their powers for good, not evil. And it's just imperative that you do that. Ethical issues are core to cybersecurity, and this is a point of that. As you're dealing with cybersecurity, you have to be ethical. We've talked about it over and over again. I can't stress it enough. Use your powers for good, not evil. Determine how cybersecurity is integrated in the organization's privacy. I work hand in hand with our compliance folks around privacy as well. So you'll need to make sure that it's integrated into that and you're protecting individuals' information. In many cases, your compliance folks or your privacy individuals, especially if it's a GDPR and you have to have a DPO, which is a designated privacy officer, they may not understand all the intricacies of cybersecurity. Therefore, you need to be someone that can give them that information and guidance. And I like to say that it's like the doctor's cream, right? Doctor's cream, not their cream. No, not the cream, but the creed. The creed, do no harm. Primum non nocere. See, third grade education's kicking in again. I don't know what that means. I know what it means, but I don't know how to say it. Do no harm. So bottom line is you should do no harm when you're dealing with cybersecurity. All right, here's some of the references. ISC Squared Training Study Guide, April 2018. And there's also a lot of good resources online as well. But again, bottom line, do the right thing. All right? All right, see you in the next section.